Greetings and welcome to another episode of His Will for Your Life. I am your host, Sherry Levon Harris, and I have joining me tonight is Noel Figueroa. And we hope that you would stay tuned as we have this dialogue with him. Being an author and a podcast host can be a great way to share your ideas and stories with the world. As an author, your written works can inspire, entertain, educate, and bring joy to readers. You have the power to create entire worlds, characters, and narratives that can stay with readers for a lifetime. As a podcast host and creator, you have the opportunity to connect with your audience on a personal level, sharing your thoughts, opinions, ideas, and controversial format. You can interview guests, share your own stories, and even offer advice to your listeners. The combination between being an author and a podcast host can provide a unique platform for you to express yourself, reach a wider audience. So stay tuned as we interview our guest, Noel Figueroa, as a podcast creator, author, and prolific poet. And we'll be right back.
His will for your life with Cherie Harris. This is your weekly Wednesday 7 p.m. podcast. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. Informative, hot topics, testimony, interviews, along with your weekly guests and more. And now here's your host, Cherie Harris.
Greetings and welcome back. I am with Noel Figueroa. How are you, sir?
Good evening, Sherry. I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm going to give you this opportunity to share with our audience who you are and what you do.
Sure, excellent. Thank you so much.
You're
Well,
welcome.
I'm Noel A. Figueroa. My pen name is The Anointed Pen. I am a poet, author, blogger, workshop facilitator, and event host. I am the host of the Poets with Purpose Poetry Workshop, which I started back in 2018. It's a poetry collective that I decided to start because I wanted to create another outlet for poets, regardless of, your level of experience, whether you're new to poetry or whether you've been doing it forever. I wanted to create a safe space where all poets can come together for the love of poetry, regardless of race, regardless of religious beliefs, regardless of education, regardless of all the things that make us different.
Mhm.
I wanted to create a space where we can all come together for the love of poetry, regardless of those differences. So I recently celebrated the 5th anniversary of Poets with Purpose back in July, and I'm excited about that accomplishment. I've been able to curate events both in person and virtually through Zoom, over the course of the last 5 years. And it was essentially over the past 2 or 3 years where things seem to have increased in the sense that, I've gained, more followers. I've gained more participation in the events that I have to offer. And I'm gaining more traction in terms of who's seeing what I have to offer. So I'm grateful to have, taken the initiative to start something that's struck a chord with so many people who are as passionate about poetry as I am. I'm also the host of the PWP Sessions podcast. That's the Poets with Purpose Sessions podcast, which is essentially an extension of Poets with Purpose. Is a podcast I created where I interview poets one-on-one to have in-depth conversations about who they are, what they write about, why they write, what their inspirations are. I give them an opportunity to perform their work, and then I make space for a Q&A session at the end of the, towards the end of the interview. I just recently completed 2 seasons. I'm about to start my third season next month in September.
Nice.
So, anyone interested in being interviewed on the podcast can reach out to me via email, poetswithpurpose@gmail.com.
Awesome. That's Poets for Purpose at Gmail.
Yes, poetswithpurpose at
With
gmail.com.
okay. I'll make sure I write that in the comments. Well, you do a lot, sir.
Yeah, I tried. What I try to do is just to stay consistent.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way anything's going to get done is by putting, feet to my faith, so to speak. Putting in the
Yes.
work, making myself known, and and I just do it for the love. I love what I do, and beyond just it being something that I love to do, I believe this is something that God that gave me as a gift, you
Mm-hmm.
know, to create in this manner because some of my poetry is faith based.
Mm-hmm.
For those that don't already know, I am a born again believer in Jesus Christ. I've been saved for about 25, 26 years now, and most of my writing centers on faith based topics. My relationship with God. Discouragement. Trials,
Mm-hmm.
life's difficulties, joy, peace, um, interactions with God, anything along those lines of what pertains to the Christian walk. I touch on those subjects as an extension of my relationship in God in particular. Um, as far as the faith based poetry is concerned, or even my poetry overall,
Mm-hmm.
I do write more. I do write about more than just faith based topics. I deal with love, relationships, current events. I believe in being a well rounded writer, so that
Yes.
way, regardless of what a person's beliefs are or what they don't believe,
Mm-hmm.
anyone can pull something out of what I have to write. However, I make it clear that I am a believer, and my desire or intent is that when people see me or read what I write, that they'll find Christ
Come
in
on.
what I have to offer. And
Okay.
that's my ultimate goal. That regardless of what people read or how people interact with me, I want people to leave knowing that I'm a believer and that there is a God, that Jesus is real, that Jesus cares about them.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, God has a plan and purpose for their life, and that and that Christ is available to them the same way that He's available to me. So I want to leave people encouraged and empowered, knowing that God loves them, and I'm using my creativity as one way to express that idea.
Awesome. That's awesome. I love that. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into writing and podcasting?
Well, I have no formal training in writing or reading poetry. It was just something that I took upon myself to get into on my own. I in school I would read poetry by the legends of poetry. Sonia Sanchez, Rita Dove, Langston Hughes,
Mm-hmm.
Nikki Giovanni. Langston Hughes is one of my personal inspirations that got me into
Yes.
writing poetry for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a matter of of personal exploration of these other poets, and Langston Hughes in particular, that got me wanting to try it out for myself. And then, over time, my writing matured, and I dealt with, more serious subject matter, and I would just write about, things out of my personal life experiences.
Okay. Awesome. Your podcast often features with other authors and poets, right?
Yes.
How do you choose your guests, and what do you look for in a good interview?
Well, I would just mainly usually it will be a case of whether I would interact with the poet online or in person at an open mic. Usually I would hear their work, and I would be, motivated to invite them on my show because I would be impressed with what they have to offer. There's no real criteria per se. I'm open to all styles of poetry. I have as you will see on my YouTube channel, you can view past episodes, and events on my YouTube channel. As you go through the videos, you see, I have people of all walks of life, different races, different backgrounds, and
Mhm.
everybody brings something different to the table. So I'm usually just inspired by the person's work, and I like what I hear, or I like what I read, and I would just, reach out to them. I would reach out to them directly, asking them if they would like to be interviewed. And
Mhm.
then there's those instances where poets themselves would reach out to me asking me if they could be on the show. So it's
Awesome.
kind of half and half. Some people asking me, and in some instances I'm reaching out to them to extend an invitation to be on the show.
Hmm. Same with me. That's good. Okay.
And as far as what I look for, it's not this. I don't have any real criteria. It's just a matter of, if I enjoy your poetry, if I feel it gets my attention, then I would extend the invitation to make space for you.
Okay. How do you balance your time between writing and podcasting? And do you find that one activity inspires the other?
Um, I would say it's somewhat of a balance because I don't necessarily write often. It was usually when I write, it's when inspiration hits.
Hmm.
So when I'm in the vein to write, I make time for that. And then as far as preparing for podcast episodes, once I set a date, um, I usually just go over the questions that I'm going to ask
Hmm.
and make sure that everything is in place, before the date of the interview.
Okay. Is your podcast weekly or it's once or twice a month?
I would say it varies. Usually it's about once or twice a month,
Okay.
but I've been known to do at least 3 or 4 interviews per month, depending on my schedule.
Okay. Can you talk about a particular memorable interview or guest that you had on your podcast?
Wow. That's going to be hard to answer because I've had so many phenomenal poets that it's
Hmm.
hard to choose like one or two, but I can name several or a few offhand. I would say the artist Anubis is one, Sean Battle, Karina G. Lopez,
Hmm.
Rescue Poetics is another, Terry E. Carter, based out
Hmm.
of Boston, is another phenomenal poet. Lyrical Faith, another amazing poet. There's just so many that I could name drop. I would only suggest going to my YouTube channel and you'll see the wide variety of poets. They're all different, but they all bring their own energy and something to the poetic table that excites me and inspires me. So the poets that I encounter, they have something for everybody. So it's never a dull moment.
Awesome. We have our audience, Paula. How are you, Paula? Paula asks, "What is your YouTube channel called?"
Oh, it's called Poets with Purpose. So you can if you type in the search Poets with Purpose, it should come up as that. So you'll see either Poets with Purpose, and you should also see the @ sign Poets with Purpose when you're doing the search on YouTube.
Thank you. As an author, Noel, how do you approach the writing process? Do you have a specific ritual or routine that help you stay focused?
Um, Not necessarily. I mean, how I write is usually when inspiration hits. So it could be like maybe I watch something on the news, um, with all the injustice taking place. Like for example, when the unfortunate incident with George Floyd,
Hmm.
when that took place, that was one of the events, I should say, that
Hmm.
inspired me to write a piece called This New America. So that's just one example. Another could be, I could be listening to some music and a song would hit me a certain way, and that
Hmm.
could be another source of inspiration. And then I could think about certain things that happened in my life, either in the past or in the present. I could pull something from those things, from
Hmm.
those instances, and that could be another source of inspiration. So my sources of inspiration vary. So it would just depend on the mood and the event, and it would depend on the moment where I could get in the vein to write something down.
Okay. You've written a book recently, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody can see this because of the background, but I self-published my first collection of poetry called One Man's Journey,
Mm-hmm.
and you can find that on my blog, The Anointed Pen Scrolls, on WordPress.com. It's my first collection of poetry that I originally released back in 2007, and I did a second printing in 2020 during the pandemic. Essentially, One Man's Journey is a collection of poems that was 12 years in the making.
Mm,
It's a collection of poetry with subjects ranging from love, relationships, current events, romance,
mm-hmm.
spiritual matters. I tried to write with something for everybody in mind. That way, anybody that reads it can pull something out of it. I'm in the process of working on another project called The Journey Continues, which is a kind of like a sequel to One Man's Journey.
Mm,
As far as this project, it's essentially a collection of poems that deals with different subject matter that anyone can pull from.
okay. What inspired you to write it?
I just needed an outlet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was never good at sports. Sports was never my thing. I was never mechanically or technically inclined. So I
Mm-hmm.
think writing helped me to immerse myself. It helped me to use my imagination, and to take me outside of myself, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Sometimes life can be challenging,
Mm-hmm.
and poetry would be my form of escape. It would be my form of release. It would be my form of therapy, more or less. So I would just pull out my pen and paper and write down whatever thoughts came to mind,
Mm-hmm.
and then if need be they would be formatted into poetic form, and the practice just stuck with me ever since.
Mm-hmm.
I've been writing since high school, but it was only during the last 10 to 12 years that I started taking my writing seriously, and I understood that God gave me this gift, because that's part of my purpose in Him.
Mm, awesome. Someone said earlier that writing poetry is self care, and I find that to be true. Um, Creativity and cooking for me is my self care. That's my therapy.
Mhm.
I'm in a relaxed mode, and then I just start creating, whether it's creating meals and dishes or creating, you know, designs. So yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, we all need that outlet.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's necessary. It's very necessary in these times.
It is. What advice would you give to an aspiring writer and podcaster who are just starting out?
I would say the important thing, one of the most important things, is to be yourself.
Hmm.
It's okay to be inspired by other people, but don't lose yourself in the process. Maintain your own voice.
Hmm.
We all have something to offer, and if you waste energy trying to sound like or look like or be like anyone else, then you lose your own identity in the process, and it's not worth it. I
Hmm.
believe in being authentic. I
Hmm.
believe in being transparent and honest, and that's not for everybody, and that's fine. Because when you make that decision to be transparent and honest and real with yourself, those that are meant to be your audience will gravitate to you. And my logic is, I may not be for everybody, but I will be for somebody.
Absolutely.
Somebody will pull something from what I have to say, and it'll make a difference.
Mhm.
So I'm just a firm believer in being true to yourself, be authentic, and those that are meant to gravitate to you will do so.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly believe in authenticity. That's why I don't give my guests questions before the interview. I like for them to answer right away. I would never put them on the spot, but I will ask questions. And they've always known the answer because they are authentic and they are their true selves. So that works out.
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
find that the viewers actually like when you're authentic. They like when you have bloopers in the middle of your content, and you're just being real. Like, I tell my guests, relax. It's live and anything can happen during the live.
Mhm.
So there's no need to be frustrated if there's some noise in the background or a kid come crawling in the screen or whatever. It's live. So
Exactly.
yeah.
And I'm also a firm believer in, expose yourself to other poets. Go to open mics.
Mhm.
Go to the library or go to your favorite bookstore. Pull out some books. Buy some books from other poets. Read poetry by other authors. Expose yourself to different types of writing styles and subject matter, so you will have a well balanced perspective when you're writing your own poetry.
Uh-huh.
And and again, it's not about trying to sound like anyone else, but it's important to know what else is out there.
Absolutely.
That way you would know for yourself what you're bringing to the table.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't hurt to read other poetry, by other poets, and seeing how they perform their poetry, because that's a source of inspiration for your own work.
True. True. Looking ahead, do you have any upcoming projects or guests on your podcast that you particularly are excited about?
Well, I have no one scheduled as of yet. I'm resuming the podcast in the beginning of September, and that's when I'll begin to extend invitations to poets that I have in mind. I don't want to give names yet because nothing's set in stone yet, but
Okay.
I do ensure of having an awesome lineup of poets to be interviewed for my third season, which I'm really excited about. There's some that I took interest in, that I reached out to, and they were open to be being interviewed. So I'm looking forward to making those announcements. I can, however, share a couple of things I have coming up. This Saturday, I believe that's the
26.
26th. Yeah. August 26th, this Saturday, starting at 6 p.m. I will be at the Gospel Summer Jam 2023, which will be located at the St. Paul Baptist Church of Passaic, New Jersey. It's going to be from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Tickets are sold at the door. Admission is $20 for adults, and children 10 and under will be $10. And for more information about that event, you can go on my social media page to see the flyers. Or if you like, you can contact Camille at 646-655-0464. And you can get more information about that event. I will be performing during the event, as well as a vendor for my books. I'll be selling copies of One Man's Journey there. So anyone interested in attending, I will have copies available for purchase, for those that are interested. I'm also excited about Sunday, September 17th. Leading by Mission LLC will be having a pop-up shop, and they are located in Plainfield, New Jersey. That'll be starting from 2 p.m. until 6 p.m. I will also be performing there, as well as being a vendor there. So if you happen to be in Plainfield that Sunday, feel free to stop on by and say hello, purchase a book if you can, or show support to myself, as well as the other performers, as well as the other small business vendors that will be participating there. For tickets or information concerning that event, you can go to Leading by Mission LLC.eventbrite.com, or you can just go to Eventbrite and put in the search Leading by Mission LLC, and you should see the event pop up in the search.
Great. Do you have flyers for those events?
The flyers will be posted on my social media, and you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, or now known as X, YouTube, Clubhouse, and Instagram. So you can follow me on any of those social media platforms, as well as my blog. If you subscribe to my blog, The Anointed Pen Scrolls, on WordPress, you'll get all the notifications of my event announcements, as well as see event announcements that have already been posted.
Um, can you please send me a copy of those flyers so I can post them on this feed this
Yes,
evening, and
absolutely.
put them on our page as well.
Absolutely.
So we were talking about something, and I had a question for you. And now I'm having a blog. Um, I'm having a block. Uh, can't even remember what I was going to say. Um, can't remember what I was going to say. See what happens when you go live? Oh my. I was getting ready to say something.
Well, I can note
Yes.
that for those that may not be active on social media, I would recommend subscribing to my blog to get all email notifications of blog posts as well as event postings.
Would you give us a snippet or a few poems that you've written? You ever
Absolutely,
cite some?
absolutely. Sure. Well, I can share one from my book.
Okay.
Um, I consider this to be my signature poem, more
Mm-hmm.
or less. It's called Color Me Creative. I am more than a mahogany king engaged in a graceful dance. I am more than a caramel king with a voice not given by chance. I am every brown, dark, or light, every shade of black. I am the musician playing blues to Bach, soul to rock, the painter painting like Monet or Renoir, or as the ancestors from Africa. I am the writer with pen in hand, painting visions with words that help understand, inspire, change, and release life. I am the actor in detailed plays that tell a story, my story, breathing life into today. I can be everything and anything. I can be all that God wants me to be. My name can be in lights on a marquee. My face can be on a newspaper, magazine, book cover, promoting my worth, my value, my substance. Color me creative. Let my abilities educate your soul and open your eyes to the truth of me being more than the sum of my parts, more than my skin color, hair color, eye color, more than who my mother is or who my father is, or who my relative is, greater than stereotypes, typecast, rumors, and ignorance, greater than my trials and my pains. Color me with the colors of my talents, the shades of my intellect, the hues of my spirit. Color me creative. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank
Awesome.
you. Thank you so much.
What made you write that one? Where were you? What came to mind? And what were you going experiencing at that time in life?
Um, I would say the long and short of it is I would say it was probably like a declaration to identity, like more or less affirming of who I am, or more so who God says I am, which is above what anybody else could think of me, or
Mm-hmm.
what society may think of me, or what anyone may
Absolutely.
think of me. It's affirming who God has established me to be, and just making it plain, for the whole world, to know that this is who I am. And I'm a person of substance, I'm a person of content, I'm a person of value,
Mhm.
that I matter. So it's like self affirmation, more or less.
Great. That's wonderful. Do you write any songs? Do that come to you as well?
um Not necessarily a songwriter per se, but it's been more so poetry, more or less. Some of my poems are short, and some of my poems are long because they're more detailed,
Mm-hmm.
um due to the subject matter. And if you like, I can give an example of that.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. I'll share. This is a brand new poem that'll
Okay.
eventually be in a future project. This is called The Other F Word.
Mm.
I forgive you. I forgive me. Now, when do I start to feel again? I forgive you. Now I forgive me. So now, when do I start to feel again? Oh, that F word, which seems to be just as much of a curse word like the other curse word, which we're all familiar with, because it's easy to need it, but harder to give it. It's either easy to need it, but harder to give it. But God says, forgive others as I have forgiven you. We can't be in right standing with God. We cannot be in right standing with God and not in right standing with our fellow man. Of course, we don't always want to forgive, but we have to. Forgiveness is not for you. It's forgiveness is for you, not for the person who wronged you. and you can't do it in your own strength. I forgive you and I forgive me. Now do I start to feel again? If I hate you, what does that do? So I breathe in and I count to 10. The pain of what happened is real and our emotions are valid. How do we get through being disrespected and mishandled? How do you recover from the loss of respect and trust? Forgiveness doesn't mean act like it never happened. Forgiveness doesn't mean you're letting the other person off the hook. It means giving the situation to God and letting God handle it. It means not allowing the situation to make you bitter and full of resentment. It means giving yourself freedom from the situation, taking comfort knowing that God will redeem you. I forgive you, so I forgive me. Now do I start to feel again? If I hate you, what does that do? So I breathe in and I count to 10. Oh, that F word, which seems to be just as much of a curse word like that other curse word which we're all familiar with, because it's easy to need it but harder to give it. Because it never feels good to be wrong. It never feels good to be played for a fool. It never feels good to be taken advantage of. But if anger consumes us, we will miss out on our blessings. We will miss out on our blessings that God can pull from the situation. Oh, that F word, the word that's easy to say but hard to do. Forgive. So I forgive you and I forgive me for not seeing the red flags, for not listening to my heart, for not listening to God when He warned me, for the disrespect that I let slide one time too many, for not seeing that you were taking advantage of my kindness sooner. I choose to forgive. I choose to release. I choose to be healed because the lights are on and I'm coming home. And yes, I'll be back with a new heart in my hand because I forgive you. Thank you.
Wow, it seems like all this week um, I've been hearing forgiveness. We
Mm.
talked about it, I've written about it, and so it's a daily thing for me of forgiving. If it comes to mind, I have to automatically just forgive and wash that away. Yes, the other F word. Um,
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. It's not easy, but it's necessary, and it's liberating for you. And contrary to what people believe, it's not about letting the other person off the hook. It's about you being healed
mhm,
and you being able to move on with your life without being consumed by the event.
mhm,
And it doesn't disregard your feelings about what happened. It just helps you put it into perspective. It happened. You're making a conscious decision to forgive and release, just as God forgives us. We're required to forgive other people. Otherwise, how are we representing Christ if we don't forgive other people, but we expect God to forgive us for our mess?
absolutely.
So it's all about making a conscious decision to let it go, give it to God, and allow God to heal you.
Mhm,
And then it becomes a matter of acknowledging that it happened, but you're not letting the situation consume your life.
absolutely.
That's the part that needs to be understood.
It really does because once it festers, it be turned into bitterness, then anger all over again. Then you start replaying that back, and it isn't good for you. It will consume you as well. So yes,
Exactly.
forgiveness
Exactly.
is key. Yes, Cynthia, that will preach.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Will preach. Well, those are the questions that I have for you. I do thank you for availing yourself and accepting our invitation to be on the show tonight as we honor our National Black Businesses this month. I enjoyed you. I enjoyed your poems. I will have to get a copy of your book, and hopefully we can have you back on where you're just reciting or sharing some more of your projects with us. We're going to list those things in our feed so that others can follow you and see what else is going on with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you have any takeaways or closing remarks that you have for our audience?
Yes, a matter of fact, yes, there's one other event that I forgot to mention.
Uh-huh.
Friday, September 29th from 7 p.m. until 10 p.m. I will be co-hosting an event with Puff and Words LLC. It's another poetry event group. We're doing an event called Sip and Spit Verses. It's an open mic. Tickets are $25. and it's going to be located at a restaurant called Greedy Vegan, 326 Tompkins Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. Tickets are going to be $25 online. If you're a poet that wants to be part of the open mic, there's a 10-slot open mic. And tickets for the open mic portion are $25 as well. And you can find tickets on Sip and Spit Verses at eventbrite.com.
Awesome. Thank you. And I will get all the information from you to put into this feed. I do remember my question for you now.
Excellent.
Have you ever interviewed or had on your show any celebrities?
No, not yet. I'll say not yet.
I like that.
No.
Yeah. That's like me, not yet.
Not yet. Maybe one day.
Yeah, you will. I'm quite sure you will. Thank you again for being with us. We enjoyed you, and I look forward to some great things coming from you. And I was blessed to have you on the show tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity, and I enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.
You're welcome. Cynthia saying thank you for sharing.
Thank
Please,
you, Cynthia.
You're welcome. Please join us next week. We're getting off the National Black Business Month, but we have our all male panel who will speak on new beginnings, because this is August, the 8th month, and the 8th month, number 8 means new beginnings, and so they're going to talk about new beginnings. So join us next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Remember, it's okay not to be okay, just as long as we don't stay in that place. Thank you all for joining us. Have a blessed week, and we'll see you next time if Yah says the same. Good night, everyone.
God bless. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Please join us again next week for another riveting, informative segment